Actually, let me. Okay, good connection.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I hope you've had a great day today at this exciting Pittsburgh conference. You know, isn't it great that we had this in Pittsburgh? As I always say, best city in the United States is Pittsburgh. We all know that, and I love this because this curiosity, that fits in really with me and what I do and with my life. I'm Joyce Bender. I'm the CEO and founder of Bender Consulting Services, a woman living with epilepsy, and the host of the podcast Disability Matters with Joyce Bender on voiceamerica.com. A seizure one night that resulted in me having a terrible accident where I hit my head so hard I had life-saving brain surgery, just changed the destiny of my life and what would happen in the future. And this is where the curiosity came to be. What I did for a living was executive search. But it wasn't long after that that I found out Americans with disabilities had an extremely high unemployment rate. So I was curious. You know, curiosity means you have an intense desire to understand, to learn. And I wanted to learn, why are people with disabilities who can be in IT, finance, accounting, why are they not being hired? And after doing work for years, I did what every great Pittsburgher would do. I said, I'm not going to take that. I'm starting my own company. And in 1995, I founded Bender Consulting Services, headquartered right here in Pittsburgh. And you know what? Um, I've received the President's Award at the White House from President Clinton and from the Bush administration. And presently, I speak around the world virtually. You never believe this. Next is Libya, where I speak about quality of life and employing people with disabilities. And yet, what do many people, not the people from Libya, but people from the White House, different presidents, guess what they ask me about? What is that Primanti sandwich? So as you can see, how are we known at the White House? By our Primanti sandwich. But it is curiosity that led me to do what I did and am still doing today. And that really has been our theme of this tremendous conference. And now here I am joined by this panel of rock stars that we're going to talk to for a little bit. But not everyone tuned in right now has heard all of you or met all of you. So if you don't mind, how about if we take a moment for you to introduce yourself? Daryl, we'll start with you.
And I love your story. I'm not from Pittsburgh, but I'm from Boston. I feel like there's enough of a similarity there that we can all get along. But I love the Pittsburgh pride. So yeah, thank you. My name is Daryl Penta. I am a UX researcher at Google, and I spend quite a bit of time working with IA problems at various parts of my job. But today, the talk that I gave was actually a slightly different topic than what I might ordinarily give, and that was about data stewardship. So again, happy to answer questions, and really, it's a pleasure to be on a panel with such a renowned group of people. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And I know there will be a lot of questions for you, especially with that Google background you have. Daniel, what about you?
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel Gorczynski. I'm a UX architect at American Eagle Outfitters. I am also not officially or originally a Pittsburgh native. I've been here for 9 years. I came here to attend CMU where I got my master's in arts management, but otherwise I'm from Wisconsin, so cheesehead at heart. But I primarily work on the app and international projects at American Eagle, kind of from start to finish with working on research, looking at personas, journey mapping, all the way through concept, design, and then also, again, as many of you, I'm sure, kind of work hand in hand with dev and a lot of the project partners to make sure that project launches successfully, but then also afterwards testing, iterating, and seeing how we can elevate the experience.
Great, thank you very much. Are you from Pittsburgh? Do we have a Pittsburgher here? Ray Lynn, do we have a Pittsburgher with you?
Of course, yes,
All
definitely.
right.
I have never left. You know what I love about Pittsburgh is I really thought when I graduated from CMU I would have to leave for the tech experience, but Pittsburgh technology just grew and grew, and I've been able to stay here for my whole career. So
Good.
I love it. I've been to the other cities, and Pittsburgh is the best.
That's
So,
right.
But
That's
so
right.
with that said, I've had a long career in Pittsburgh companies, and 3 years ago I ended up having the fortune of being able to get an assistant teaching position at Carnegie Mellon, back in my alma mater, in the Human Computer Interaction Institute. So I feel like I have a dream job today.
May I ask, who is the dean in that area?
The dean for the School of Computer Science right now is Marshall Herbert,
Mhm.
and he was one of the robotics leaders, and he was
Yes,
moved into
right.
the dean lately. And then Jody Forlisi is our director of the Human Computer Interaction Institute. And she
Well, you are in an
is an amazing
outstanding
powerhouse.
area with two very well-known leaders. Great. And that,
Yes.
you know why? Because you're from Pittsburgh. That's why you're so good at all this. Okay, Josh, how about you?
Hi, I'm not originally from Pittsburgh either. A little
Oh
bit
my
south.
goodness.
Yeah,
Where
I
are you
grew up
from?
West Virginia.
Mhm.
So I came to Pittsburgh in the late 90s to study animation at art school. I fell in love with the place. I got into tech then, and I've been working in tech in Pittsburgh ever since. Uh, Currently, I'm the owner and managing director of Viable Industries, and we're a technology studio that works on workflows. We do a lot with nonprofits, specifically around data collection, visualization, sharing, that kind of stuff. And we've kind of made a name for ourselves around environmental projects like water quality visualizations and things like that. So that's who I am and what I do.
Well, that's great. You know what? You were mentioning about technology. I don't know if everyone that is with us today knows this, but I'm a very good friend of Audrey Russo, who, as you probably all know her, so she's the CEO of the Pittsburgh Technology Council. But you know, a lot of people do not know that we have the largest trade association of that type in North America. So there really are a lot of great things in this city. But you know, that's just one of them. And it's also amazing how many companies come right out of Carnegie Mellon. So it's just, it is all about curiosity, isn't it? It is. Jonathan, how about you?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jonathan Brown. I'm a director with CGI, which is a very large consultancy. And there, I'm a design strategist and UX designer. I also teach at my alma mater at CMU. And as you heard, if you listened to my talk, I'm also working on a startup called Noosphere, which is trying to address disinformation online.
Well, I'm happy to have all of you here with us today. I do have one question to you. How do you define curiosity as it relates to technology and the economies of the world today? Daniel, what about you?
Oh man. Oh geez, oh man. Let me think about that for a little bit. That's kind of a lot all at once.
No, go right ahead. You can think about it as long as you want. Daniel, guess what? I have a question for you.
Okay.
How would you suggest tactfully sharing criticism from research participants? Well, you're getting hard questions. That first one was mine. See, mine's easier than you thought it was. How would you suggest, this is what someone wants to know, when you get negative feedback from research participants with a designer and a product team, how do you handle that?
I think a lot of it is understanding everybody's perspective. So again, you never want to lie or not say the negative feedback. I think a lot of it is in delivery. I know a lot of the time is people have a lot of skin in the game. So they're very mindful of what's happening and kind of making sure things go correctly. in the past, what's worked really well at American Eagle is, again, sharing those video clips. Those that may have a bit of hesitation or butting heads with kind of what feedback is coming, getting their perspective as well, seeing why they feel this negative experience or negative feedback isn't true, and then trying to kind of figure out that happy medium of, all right, is there a way we can balance what your thoughts, insights are with kind of what these customers are experiencing?
Very good. Thank you. And if you need to know more about that, you can get back to us. But that was a great answer. And I know that's something we all have to deal with no matter where we work, no matter what we do in life. That's a people thing. That's what it always comes down to. Okay, here, Daryl. Being that many folks say when you design for everyone, you design for no one, why is it so wrong to have separate but equal in functionality experiences for sighted versus non-sighted users or mouse versus non-mouse users? Great question. Boy, that fits into my world. What's the answer to that, Daryl?
These are some pretty heavy duty questions.
Yeah,
These are
I'm
some
sorry,
heavy
go
duty
ahead.
questions. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have I don't think I have like a silver bullet answer. And I hear the same kinds of comments about, designing for, you're not the user, don't design for yourself, or when you design for everyone, you design for no one. And honestly, I don't think I think about design on those, in such black and white terms. I mean, I think I'm inclined to believe that for many types of projects, maybe not all, if you're looking at the problem you're trying to solve, and you really have empathy and you really think hard about what is actually the hardest problem you're trying to solve, right? You may think you're trying to solve problem X, or your engineers might think you're trying to solve problem Y. But if you can actually help them understand that if they scale up how they think about that problem, you may actually kind of satisfy a broader range of users. So I know it's kind of a vague answer, but what I mean to say is, I guess something like, if you are empathetic to the fact that there are differences in people's visual abilities, and you put that at the front of your approach there, and you think about how you would solve your current problem, but how would you solve it for those users? A lot of times you're going to get that benefit of solving for that case is going to trickle down across the design solution. So in some respects, it's like, don't run away from those hard questions. I don't know if that speaks directly to the person's specific question, but I think that's as good as I can get.
No, that was good. Thank you so much.
Sure.
And Ray Lynn, what can we see from a curiosity standpoint happen so that people with disabilities across the board have the same access, such as people who are blind or deaf or have any issue? That's a question for you.
Yeah. So what can we see happen? Do you mean, how do we better address our research and our designs to ensure that we're creating best experiences?
I assume that's what the person meant.
So what could we see happen? That's how I'll interpret it and roll with that. So I think it's just a matter of exploration and always putting your ego to the side, right? Always pretending that you're sort of like a child, right? And everything is new and that you don't know everything. I go into every project challenging my own assumptions and biases. And I think that's out of that is where the curiosity can come. And then where you can ensure that you're not making assumptions as you move forward, and that you do sort of have this open mind to create experiences that fit everyone's needs and all of the needs, rather than, I think going back to the other question too, I sort of this separate but equal in functionality. I think we've learned in our lives that there is never anything as separate but equal in all things, not just, user interface design. So we need to find ways that we can create experiences for all.
That is a great answer. I love that. That's a good for all of us to look at things in that fashion, in a child's eyes. That is really great. Okay, Josh, Here we go. You're going to like this. Josh, really inspiring talk. I know you mentioned planning for knowns and unknowns, but could you talk about a bit about when you're starting out tinkering? Do you have goals or an idea of what success will look like, or perhaps that comes more organically?
That's a great question. Thank you. I'm glad that you like to talk. So it's an ever evolving process. There's usually something that I'm curious about, and I want to see if I can replicate it or get some sort of confidence with whatever the subject matter is or the material is. And I might have a bigger overarching goal, but sometimes I might not achieve that goal in that moment. I might not achieve it in the next couple months. I might not even achieve it in the next like 5 or 6 years. And so, just real quick, a story about that. I was making these cigar box amplifiers, and the housing for the amplifiers didn't really fit all that well. So I'm like, I'll just make a box for it out of wood. No big deal. And when I put the joints together, they looked terrible. They were awful. I had no idea what I was doing. And for the last 7 or 8 years now, I have been like really into woodworking and fine joinery and that sort of thing. And the first goal there was just to put like an amplifier in a box. And so I didn't anticipate that a whole other world was going to open up for me based off of my curiosity. So I absolutely don't know how it's going to end, but I normally have some sort of like vision of what I want to do today or right now. And sometimes I have to put that on pause and I have to wait like 7 years before I can get back to what it is. But I think that's all like part of the fun. That's part of the journey, you know?
Well, I agree with you. And I like the part where you said it's part of the fun. It is. It is all part of the fun. A question for you, Jonathan. Do you ever begin to fear or mistrust your own your curiosity?
Fear or mistrust? I don't. I think it's really important as designers that we follow our noses and that we smell for what is interesting to us and dive down deeper into those things that we really find interesting. We're going to say something, Joyce?
I was just going to say part two question. Do you feel today in the world of academia that we stress enough the importance of curiosity with young people?
Luckily, I'm a part of academia at CMU, and we stress following curiosity absolutely as the way to, when you're faced with a lot of research and data and don't know which way to go for the solution, that your curiosity really can lead you, and so we absolutely stress that, and I certainly do with my children as well. I'm not sure how far back in academia you want to go, but they certainly both are very comfortable following their own hearts and curiosity.
Well, there's another question for you. Boy, Jonathan, you're being really popular here. Is truth and fact accessible to everyone?
I think there is a very strong philosophical case to be made that there is no truth, and that we need to abandon that in favor of trust and conversation and merging our horizons with others through conversation.
Could you just expound on that for another moment? What do you mean there is no truth? What do you mean?
Sure. So truth is very much predicated on our personal experience and how we perceive things. As soon as in conversation somebody starts defending something that they believe as something that's true, the conversation ends. There's no chance of coming to an understanding with somebody else. But if you instead take a perspective of, that's not how I understand things, perhaps we can explore it more, then you can actually build trust with people that you disagree with.
Well, yeah, because a good example of that, stigma toward people with disabilities, is their idea of what is true that a person can do and not do. So I understand Wow, we not only have scientists and researchers and teachers, we have philosophers, we have everything with this great group. Well, here is a question for each of you. So I'm going to have to start with you, Daryl. Hopefully there's going to be different answers to this. Which Hamilton character do each of you feel like on your best day at work? Starting with you, Daryl.
So yeah, I mean, I eventually went and read that biography of Hamilton that that the musical was based off of, and I'd like to say Hamilton because I think he's just sort of a really inspiring person with a lot of qualities that on my best days I think I have. I my read of Hamilton was that he also probably suffered from a little bit of arrogance, and so maybe on my best days I might be a little bit arrogant, but I'm going to go with Hamilton just because why not, I guess.
Why not? Yeah. How about you, Daniel?
I kind of have to echo the same regarding Hamilton again for similar sort of things of always pushing forward, always having that consistent drive. I guess never really happy with just sitting still, always wanting to kind of keep pushing forward.
How about you, Raylene?
I would like to say Eliza, right? She is the force, the woman behind Hamilton, right? She does a lot. After he passed away, the things that she did and accomplished are amazing, amazing things. Maybe I am not that good. I also thought about her sister. I am often like everybody's support, emotional support. I'm the mom or the best friend behind the scenes. So maybe more her sister. And I don't remember her name, but her sister was always supporting her.
Powerful women in the background, right? Jonathan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, my joke answer was going to be Peggy Schuyler, but I think Hercules Mulligan. I'll go with the man in the background who's getting the work done.
Oh, interesting. And here we come to you, Josh. What about you?
I've never seen Hamilton. I don't really know anything about it, so I don't have an answer. Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation, I guess. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? Your best trait is right here. Truthful.
Yeah.
Truthful. Not trying to talk around this or saying, yeah, what they said. I'm going to say what they said. Here's another question for each of you. Did you ever have a project in your past and you thought to yourself, wow, did I do the right thing there? Should I have done more? Did that really work, or should I go back and review that? Did that ever happen to you, Jonathan?
Constantly. That is a trait of somebody who's a professional learner. I hope that we all reflect on the projects that we do and find the ways that we could have done them better.
Joshua?
Every project, all the time, constantly. I constantly think about, sometimes before I go to sleep, about projects that I worked on 15 or 20 years ago, and that just kind of like stick with me on how I could have done something better. But you have to let yourself off the hook sometimes, because you are still learning and things are changing. Every day you get smarter, your clients get smarter, the world gets smarter. So it's something that I do struggle with.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Raylene? I think she's on a temporary freeze frame. Daniel?
Absolutely. I mean, so I'd say kind of as Joshua was saying, things are constantly changing. So you have to know that while you may have a solution that's working, everything is great one day, being very cognizant that a couple days, weeks, or even say a year in the future, things might be different. There are different circumstances. There are different kind of things that are possibly bombarding the user, or kind of the landscape, at least in my world right now in digital and retail, may be changing. So I think it's always keeping that curiosity and knowing that you can never really be perfect, but using and creating the best solution you can with the given information you have.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Raylene?
I think the biggest I ever failed with was the one that really kind of led me to my philosophy and being a researcher and sort of not having biases. It was the grad school capstone project for me, and we designed a device to help people who were deaf, and we made a lot of assumptions, and we went into it, and we finally took our prototype to the school, and it was a disaster. We just did not do our homework. We did not have the right empathy, and it was so disheartening for me because in some ways we even insulted them. But boy, that was what a learning moment for me, and what a really great way for me to always keep that in mind as I move forward in my career. But could I go back and redo that? Yeah, I wish I could.
But one of the great traits of success is knowing and admitting that. And boy, does that happen a lot in the deaf community. Let me just tell you, well, in many for that matter. Question for you, Daryl. How do you keep your sense of fun and curiosity when you colleagues are stuck in their own ways?
Yeah, I mean, I think both the last question and this question have, are sort of part and parcel of, I think, what I have to face as a UX researcher, which is that, when I'm done doing research with people and then going back to a team, I'm usually sort of obnoxiously loud and insistent and vocal about what I think we should be doing to serve those people. And so that part's the easiest part for me, like staying energetic and being curious, because it's easy when you're talking about humans to say, like, I got to spend 20 hours with this group of people or these groups of people, and here's what I learned, and I want to tell you all about it. And then my colleagues, who sometimes are set in their ways, also have to temper me a little bit, because there are other constraints that they have to deal with, right? Maybe there are technological limitations or sort of all other business variables that are not going to allow us to sort of achieve the result that we're trying to achieve, or that I think we should be striving for. And so I mean, the part about staying energetic when other folks are sort of stuck in their ways, I think probably it's just that, like, brute force approach. I just keep doing it, and it doesn't land all the time, but I only needed to get it to land a little bit of the time for a project manager to say, all right, cool, we weren't thinking along those lines, but that's a good point, and maybe we'll pivot and maybe we'll think differently. Like, that's a massive victory, because I don't pay to build the products. And so, like, my job is to go in there and be like, this is how I think our users are going to have a better experience. But of course, someone has to pay for the team that's going to do that. So I have to, sometimes be toned down by groups, but hope that answered the question. All right.
Yeah, you're very enthusiastic. You always need to keep that. That is so important. It's contagious. In a good way, contagious in a good way. A question that I have is, when you are working with either younger people at your company or students, whatever it is, what could you do to try to get them to include marginalized people more when they are designing, when they are in the design state? I'm back to you, Daniel, because I like to ask you the hard questions.
Hey, why not? I think, I think what I'm really very lucky to have is that working at American Eagle and ARI as well, is that in general, it's a very inclusive brand. I mean, if you look at our website or on our PDP pages, we have kind of so many different individuals that people can compare with and kind of see themselves in. So I think that mentality and being very mindful of that helps then trickle down into the work we are doing, with kind of just keeping it and really, really harping on it every single day. It's making sure you're inclusive as much as you can, and keeping in mind all of these different individuals.
Yes, because, for example, I went into a building in DC, because I am the vice chair of the American Association of People with Disabilities, Ted Kennedy Jr. is the chair. So when you go into the building, I said, wow, this is awesome. This is awesome. And the person said, what do you mean? I said, what do you notice? You just saw someone come in here in a wheelchair, and you saw someone walk in. What did you notice? Same thing, universal design. We all went in together, not a ramp over here, universal design. So my hope is that researchers, designers around the world, when they are designing, will have that curiosity to include all of us. That includes people with disabilities. Okay, well, a question for you. Oh, here we go. This was a question that was asked to many. Abby talked about burnout this morning. What strategies do the panelists use to make sure they don't overcommit? With what you do for a living, whether it's teaching or design or research, is very easy to do. And right now, may I say, through this pandemic and people working at home, is doubling that problem. So what do you do? Where are you, Mr. Jonathan? What do you do?
I like to create concerning the pandemic, I like to create a separate space to work in and really pretend like I'm going to the office, even though it's just down the hall, and get dressed for work and not let my work life bleed over into my personal time. In terms of overcommitting, I do struggle with that all the time. But I think that, but even people who are very busy and have lots to do can avoid burnout by just doing a few simple things. I think cultivating gratitude is really important, and thinking all the times about like the things that you have and the things that you have to be grateful for. I also think that for designers, looking for beautiful things in the world and capturing them is really important. When you see a beautiful experience, taking a picture of it, writing a tweet about it, I think that's really critical. And then also trying to be with new people who are from different demographics. I really like hanging out with people who are older than me and people who are younger than me, who have a different kind of generational perspective on the things that I'm considering. And all of those things, I think, contribute to me not burning out despite having more work than I'd like to.
You know what? I just like to hang out with all of you. All of you. That's what I.
Are we losing Joyce, or is it just me?
Myself once again. How do you prevent that from happening?
We lost you for the last few seconds there, Joyce.
Oh, do you have me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. What I was saying, Raylyn, is what do you do to make sure you don't overcommit?
My two little dogs. Having somebody else, especially since my children are grown and in college, having them to take me away from work, to take walks with, to focus on, to take care of. They are just joyful to me, and they're typically also in my classes and in my meetings, as Jonathan and Dan know. But yeah, I think having something to distract you and to love and to take care of.
Mm-hmm. Josh, how about you?
I overcommit all the time. I'm actually heading to another commitment in about 20 minutes. So I'm doing this in the car right now because I have another engagement. So that's a serious problem I deal with all the time. And I think it's because I love the opportunity to help people and to bring things to life. So I don't know that I have an answer for that.
I told you were honest. You're Mr. Honest Man. Yeah, well, you know what? Many of us have that problem. Daryl, what about you?
I was hoping you would skip me for this one. Yeah, I don't do a really good job of that. This is actually my second conference in 3 days, and
Oh,
in the middle
my.
of the busiest week I've had at work. And I think part of me really actually enjoys it, or else I would find a way to stop doing it. I think I feel like there's work to be done, and at least I feel like I mean, I wake up every day feeling I'm so lucky that I get to do the kind of work that I do, and if it helps people, then it makes me feel great. I think my partner and my dog probably wish they saw a little bit more of me, but they're very understanding, and I'm working on it. I heard somebody say recently that they call themselves a work in progress, and I thought that's got to be the best way I've ever heard to describe it. So yeah, I'm still working on it. And I loved hearing what everybody else said. Thanks for the advice, basically.
Yeah. Daniel.
So I also have a very big issue with overcommitting. Trying my best at times, if again I can't, to say no, but also then trying to still be able to participate in any way that I can. I think kind of as Rilyn mentioned, she has her 2 dogs that help kind of keep her grounded and keep her mind off of some things. For me, it's just, especially even in the last couple days, I realized I haven't left the house. I wake up, I'm working, and now it's time to work out inside and make dinner. So, I mean, even something of like going outside, bundling up and taking a walk, just again, that's something I still do have to work on, but I'm taking baby steps towards.
Perhaps Joyce froze again.
Well, yeah, that's particularly for you. And it is that since you mentioned
Well, it looks like we lost Joyce altogether. So maybe we can just tackle one of the questions that's in the panel there. Yeah. How about we heard a lot of panelists today face challenges and handle difficult situations. What are some things you've enjoyed throughout your careers and look forward to in the future? How about we start with you, Jonathan?
I love the reveal. Like, I always look forward to showing the big idea to the end users, and like, whether it goes well or whether it falls flat, it doesn't matter. The reveal is always exciting, a big build up, and then in the best cases, it's just seeing like joy in the user's eyes, particularly when you're working on enterprise software that's been there a while, and you deliver something that's really going to improve the lives of people who look at the software every day. That makes me really happy. I love the reveal. I look forward to it all the time.
I am so sorry, but welcome to the world of Zoom conferences. So I skipped out, but I'm back. Daniel, did you hear the question that I asked you about American Eagle?
I did not, no.
Oh, okay. Well, one of our listeners wanted to know if you think at American Eagle there is a button for women, do you think they will consider at some point having it for other genders such as transgender?
Again, from what I know now and regarding kind of what's coming up in the future, I think it's definitely a puzzle we're very much kind of looking at and just being cognizant of kind of how everything is kind of evolving in our world. And we do want to create that space that's open, that's an inclusive experience for everyone, but we also are keeping in mind the shopping path for all of our users as well. So I'd say it's definitely a challenge moving forward, that it is something that we will be, at least I would love to look into. I know we do have personalization on the website. So again, we provide smart product recommendations based on your shopping behaviors. So while we may have those two shop men, shop women CTA callouts, we do have those opportunities that we are providing kind of that catered recommendation bucket of products based on your browsing history.
And that's great. I have to say there aren't many. I mean, this is, this is sort of like the world of disability. We still have, in other words, it isn't just, oh, you American Eagle aren't doing it, but everyone else is. It isn't like that. But I certainly appreciate your answer and your openness, because I know that you mean what you say. Well, we have a big question here. Today, there has been a lot of talk about how panelists have faced challenges and handled difficult situations. You're going to love this question. What are some things they've enjoyed throughout their careers and look forward to in the future? Boy, people must be saying, that woman's asking too hard of questions. I'm going to ask a happy question. So, Raylyn, what's your answer to that? What have you enjoyed throughout your career and look forward to in the future?
Mentoring others, working with others. I always feel that when somebody, and I think that's why it led me to being a teacher, but when somebody who worked for me ends up being promoted or achieving more or accomplishing more than I have, is the biggest accomplishment of my life. And just working and mentoring with people. Dan and I have been friends for a long time. We did our talk together. I actually recruited him from the agency over to American Eagle, and to watch Dan grow. And I think that is the biggest joy I could ever have. And I look forward to just doing more of that.
What a wonderful, wonderful answer. That's what we need. Young people with disabilities, we need more people that will mentor young people with disabilities so they realize we are accepted and we can contribute and we all can work in any area. So that's a wonderful, wonderful answer. Daryl, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the question. I mean, I feel like, I'm a white individual who identifies as male. And so it's really easy, or had been, when I first got into tech, to find people who were pretty similar to me in that respect. And I think I'm really hopeful because I'm starting to see changes, right? It's not happening super quickly, but it's slowly happening. So I'm starting to see a lot more diversity in tech. And I think younger individuals are bringing a lot more awareness of some of the things that are important to, I have no doubt, everyone on this panel, right? Inclusivity and sort of operating from a good moral, sort of humanistic standpoint. And so for me, these are really great signs, right? So it would be great if, we could wave a wand and there would be these dramatic changes, tomorrow. But I think it's the belief that we're making progress, and that more and more people are starting to be open and vocal about the importance of addressing these things and the importance of bringing in diverse perspectives. So I'm really hopeful about that.
That's good. That's good. Thank you. Daniel?
Yeah. So yes, again, big shout out to Raylyn for helping me and also finding me on LinkedIn, getting me from the agency over to American Eagle. So again, big thank you to Raylyn, who truly is a mentor of mine. But kind of also going back to the question, I love always asking why. Spinning up user tests, looking at these designs that we have, getting in kind of the mindset of the different users, but more so is also being proven wrong. If there's something, and being okay with that. Again, there's always learning opportunities in everything we do. And I think it's great and exciting when you do kind of find that additional piece of information, or you have that new aspect to add to your mindset to kind of help you continue growing as an individual, but also within your work.
Good. Great. Joshua? I can't wait to hear what you have to say here, Josh.
My favorite part is when I can discover what the real asks are, the implicit asks that aren't verbalized or drawn in the blueprints or in the design documents or whatever. I love to smoke those out and to solve those problems, because oftentimes we kind of deal with symptoms and not necessarily the problems that are really there underneath. And I love when I can Where's Waldo one of those problems and bring them to light, because it solves a much more bigger problem that cascades throughout the entire situation. That's one of my favorite things to do.
And here we come, Jonathan. What about you?
Well, I would plus one everything that what all of my colleagues have said on this topic, and also just reiterate something I heard in the conference today, which is that joy in the workplace yields joy for the end user. And I think that the more we can cultivate joy in the work, the more we're going to deliver joy in our products and services.
Oh, that is a great saying. Wow, how true is that? This probably is going to be one of my favorite questions for all of you. What is your favorite research question you ever ask and why? I've got to repeat that one. What's your favorite research question you ever ask and why? And we're going to start with Jonathan.
I do a lot of work with enterprise applications. And one of my favorite questions is, at the end of the day, when you're driving home, how do you know that you've been successful today? Like what is it that indicates that you've done a good job at work today? And it's fascinating how broad the answers are, and if you get compelling ones, how that can lead to the real root of the solution that you're going to build.
Wow, that is a great question. And that fits right in with curiosity now, doesn't it? With the theme. How about you, Raylyn?
Well, I think I originally interpreted this specifically, so I'll answer it that way just because it's funny. Working with Julia, who also spoke with, we did a project for Purple Mattress Company. And I think some of our questions were around other activities in the bedroom. It was a lot of fun. Most people did not respond, although we had one person who did actually talk about having sex on the mattress, but out of like 30 interviews. But I think that was sort of the most fun research that we've done. And I think the point of this is, don't be afraid to ask those questions, right? Don't be afraid to ask things that you think might make people uncomfortable, because you never know. And it was important to our client, important to our project.
Raylyn, no judgment at all. I must admit that is not the question that was not the answer I thought you would give. But you know what? Everyone is going to remember your answer. Everyone. How about you, Daryl?
Sorry, yeah, I'm gonna drop the ball on this one. I don't really think I have. I can't think of a specific question that I fall back on or something, because I tend to work on just a variety of projects. So the questions I'm usually asking just are so rooted in that particular situation. But I've had to ask questions under unusual circumstances and in weird, for example, I worked on a product for a company that was kind of early in the market for putting devices on your table at a restaurant so that you can interact with that thing instead of interacting with your server. And I always talk about how the folks who came up with that were really bright from one of the Ivy League schools here in Boston. And I always think about how they probably validated their ideas and their prototypes, which was, turning to the other guys in their dorm room saying, hey, like, wouldn't it be cool if you never had to talk to a person and you could just like go into a restaurant and press these buttons? And, testing that live in a restaurant in a really busy neighborhood here in Boston was a super interesting experience. The kinds of answers and questions that I needed to bring insights to that team were pretty fun and pretty challenging, but I can't, nothing specific. So sorry, I don't have a good answer for this one.
That's all right. That's quite all right. Daniel?
We're doing our either remote usability testing or in-store testing, I always love to kind of finish off the test with, if you had a magic wand, what would you change about this experience? Again, really having no guide railing. So no issues with scope, no issues with feasibility. Hearing some of those answers could then unlock doors or kind of give you a different perspective as to additional ways you may be able to enhance or create a different experience.
Thank you. Well, Josh, guess what? You are going to be giving the last answer of the day because we are almost at the end of the show. So what is your answer?
Normally, mine is what Jonathan said. What does success look like? But to be a little bit different, my second favorite is why is this important to you? And depending on who you're talking to, you get a whole array of different answers, which can start to mine out some of those implicit concerns that don't necessarily make it on the design docs.
Thank you. Well, before we go, first, I want to thank all of you for being here with us today and for being such great panelists. I really liked being with here's my answer. I want to get to know all of you better. So that would be my answer. And also hats off to everyone that put this together today. So, you know, for those of you that don't, having a virtual event, a virtual conference takes a lot of work. You all did a great job. Applause, applause to all of you. Applause, applause. Well, thank you. I hope you have a great remaining part of your day. I know it was to the end, but it was an honor for me to spend time with you. So in the words of the great late Justin Dart, lead on, no matter what. This is Joyce Bender signing out. Thank you.
Thanks, Joyce.
Thank you, Joyce.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Joyce.